Welcome to Hidden Truths, the channel where we expose the quiet forces shaping your life, the ones you were never meant to question. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on a value the world has taught you to worship: loyalty. They told you it's noble. They told you it's honorable. But what if it's a trap? What if your job, your relationships, even your government don't cherish your loyalty? They exploit it. What if the real reason you're stuck, exhausted, and quietly unfulfilled is because you've been loyal to the wrong things for too long? In this video, we're going to expose how systems reward you just enough to make you stay, while draining your time, energy, and potential. We'll unravel the psychology of why we stay even when everything in us is screaming to leave. And most importantly, we'll reveal the hidden cost of loyalty and how you can take your power back. Because the truth is this: they don't need to chain you if they can just teach you to stay. Stay with us. What you're about to hear might finally explain why you felt trapped for so long. The virtue that became a prison. They say loyalty is a virtue, a sign of strength, a badge of character. From the moment you're old enough to understand the word, you're told to be loyal to your family, your school, your country, your job, your partner, your team. You're praised for sticking it out, for staying when things are hard, for not giving up. And somewhere along the way, you start to believe that staying is always the right thing to do. But here's the dangerous truth nobody tells you. Loyalty, when misplaced or unreciprocated, is not noble. It's self-betrayal. We rarely question loyalty because it hides behind words like duty, commitment, gratitude. Because leaving is seen as quitting. And quitting? That's for the weak, right? But what if staying is what's actually weakening you? Let's take a moment to reframe everything. Loyalty is only virtuous when it's mutual, when it fuels growth, when it respects your worth. But when it becomes a one-sided contract, where you give and receive only enough to stop you from walking away, that's not loyalty. That's captivity cleverly disguised. And the systems around you know this. They don't need to force you to stay. They just need to make you feel like leaving would make you the bad guy. That walking away is betrayal. That loyalty means enduring, no matter how invisible, undervalued, or used you feel. Think about it. How many times have you stayed in a job, relationship, or belief, not because it served you, but because leaving felt like giving up? That's how deep the programming runs. Loyalty has been weaponized, not with chains, but with shame. Not with threats, but with guilt. Not with cages, but with promises. Stick with us, and someday it'll be worth it. Hang in there, and we'll take care of you. Just be patient. But someday never comes, because the system was never built to reward your loyalty. It was built to extract it, to benefit from your staying power while giving just enough to keep you from breaking. It's subtle, it's psychological, and it's everywhere. You'll find it in workplaces where you're told you're part of a family until you're no longer useful. You'll find it in relationships where you're guilt-tripped into silence, in belief systems that shame you for asking questions, in governments that applaud obedience while punishing dissent. So ask yourself, is your loyalty a choice or a reflex? Do you stay because you believe in something real, or because you've been conditioned to fear what happens if you walk away? This isn't about becoming disloyal. It's about becoming intentional. Because when loyalty is blind, it becomes bondage. And here's the most haunting part. Many people never realize they're trapped because they're too busy applauding themselves for being so loyal. Let that sink in. You've been told loyalty makes you strong, but sometimes it's the thing that's slowly draining your strength while the world claps for your endurance. In the next part, we'll explore the exact psychological trick that keeps you stuck, even when every part of you knows it's time to leave. It's called the sunk cost fallacy, and chances are, it's already shaping your life more than you think. Sunk cost fallacy, when loyalty turns illogical. Why do we stay? Why do we keep showing up to jobs that drain us, relationships that deplete us, systems that fail us? The answer often isn't love, or purpose, or even hope. It's something far more deceptive, a mental trap so powerful that it's quietly ruling your biggest life decisions. It's called the sunk cost fallacy. Here's how it works. The more you invest in something, time, energy, money, emotion, the harder it becomes to walk away, even when every sign tells you that you should. You stay because you've already stayed. You keep trying because you've already tried. You tell yourself, I can't quit now. I've come too far. I've spent years building this. I've sacrificed too much to throw it all away. Sound familiar? That's the sunk cost fallacy in action. It convinces you that leaving would make all your past effort meaningless, that walking away is failure, that cutting your losses is betrayal. But here's the truth. The past is gone. The cost is already sunk. What matters now is not what you've already given, but what staying is continuing to take from you. Let's take an example. You've been in a job for 8 years. It used to excite you, challenge you. Now it bores you, exhausts you. You're underpaid, overlooked, uninspired. But you tell yourself, I've built my whole life around this. If I leave now, all those years will mean nothing. So you stay. Not because it's good for you, but because you've given so much to it already. The trap tightens. And the worst part, the system counts on this. Employers, institutions, even toxic people, they know how to use your past against you. They feed you just enough praise, just enough hope to keep you from seeing the truth. The more you invest, the more trapped you become. They don't have to give you a future. They just have to remind you of your past. I remember how hard you worked on that project. After everything we've been through together, think about how far we've come. These aren't celebrations of your loyalty. They're chains made of memory. And you wear them willingly because you don't want to feel like it was all for nothing. But here's the shift. Leaving doesn't erase your effort. It honors it. Staying in something broken just because you've been there a long time is like pouring more water into a leaking bucket just because it already has some in it. At some point, the smartest thing you can do is stop pouring. Because time spent in the wrong place does not become more valuable the longer you stay. It just becomes a deeper wound. Ask yourself honestly, are you staying because there's still something to gain, or because you're afraid to admit what you've already lost? You are not weak for walking away. You are wise for recognizing the dead end. But wisdom only works when we're willing to act on it. And that's what the next part will help you do. We'll explore how systems give the illusion of progress, how they dangle tiny victories and fake promotions just to make you feel like you're moving forward, when really, you're going nowhere. It's called the illusion of progress, and it's one of the most dangerous tricks loyalty will ever fall for. The illusion of progress. What keeps you in place isn't always chains. Sometimes it's the feeling that you're going somewhere, even when you're not. This is the illusion of progress. It's the idea that you're advancing simply because you're moving. But movement is not the same as momentum, and busyness is not the same as breakthrough. Here's how it works. You're given a new title without a raise. You're praised in a meeting without meaningful change. You're offered vague promises of someday, but that day never comes. And yet, you feel seen. You feel noticed. You feel like you're getting closer to something. So you stay. You wait. You convince yourself that progress is just around the corner. But here's the trap. The system gives you just enough recognition to make you feel like you matter, but not enough power to change your reality. It's a loyalty feedback loop. The more you try, the more they dangle tiny rewards. The more they reward you, just a little, the more you convince yourself you're almost there. But almost there becomes a way of life. You spend years climbing a ladder that leads to a locked door. And every time you knock, they say, "Be patient, you're doing great, just a little longer." And maybe you believe them because you need to. Because the alternative, realizing you've wasted years chasing something that was never real, is too painful to face. So you cling to hope. But that hope isn't hope. It's a survival mechanism. It's your mind trying to protect you from the truth. You're not progressing. You're participating in a carefully constructed performance. A performance designed to keep you working, producing, obeying, without ever asking the one question that threatens the whole system. Why am I still here? This illusion exists everywhere. In jobs that give you new business cards, but no new authority. In relationships that cycle between conflict and comfort, but never transformation. In belief systems that promise salvation, but never let you question the rules. And it's all rooted in the same emotional trick. If we can keep you believing that change is coming, we can stop you from realizing that it never will. This is why you keep chasing promotions that don't change your life. Why you stay loyal to people who only love you when you conform. Why you wait for systems to finally value you, even though they were never built for that. And this is where the illusion becomes dangerous. You don't notice how tired you are. You don't notice how much time has passed because you're distracted by the glitter of soon. But soon is a mirage. It keeps you walking through the desert while they drink from your well. So what do? You wake up. You recognize that real progress isn't measured by titles, likes, or pats on the back. It's measured by transformation, by the quality of your life, by your peace, your purpose, your growth. And if those things aren't improving, then what you're in isn't progress. It's captivity with better branding. In the next part, we'll go even deeper into how systems use comfort and stability as the ultimate bait to keep you from breaking free. Because sometimes the trap isn't discomfort, it's how safe the cage feels. The comfort cage. Stability as a weapon. You think you're safe. You think you're smart for staying. You think you're making the responsible choice. But what if you're just comfortable? And what if that comfort is the very thing keeping you from living the life you're meant to have? This is the comfort cage. It doesn't look like a prison. It looks like a steady paycheck, a familiar routine, a place where you know the rules, even if those rules hurt you. And so you stay. Because it's not bad enough to leave. Because starting over sounds terrifying. Because uncertainty feels like danger. But here's the truth most people never say out loud. Stability can be the most seductive form of control. They don't have to threaten you. They just have to offer you predictability. A chair with 4 legs, even if it's uncomfortable, feels safer than walking barefoot through an unknown path. And so the system builds a chair for you. It's small, rigid, and uninspiring, but it never falls. They give you just enough benefits, just enough paid time off, just enough emotional peace, so you don't ask for more. Because you're not in pain, you're just numb. You're not suffering, you're just sedated. And this sedation is intentional. Comfort becomes a weapon when it's used to silence your dissatisfaction, to dull your ambition, to kill your hunger, without feeding your soul. This is why people stay in jobs that don't challenge them, in marriages that have no intimacy, in routines that don't inspire them, but also don't hurt them enough to push them out. They've been taught that safe is better than free, that secure is better than alive, that comfort is the ultimate goal. But comfort isn't the goal. Growth is. And growth rarely happens where everything is easy. Growth demands discomfort. It demands change, risk, and uncertainty. But the system doesn't want you to grow. It wants you to stay. Because a comfortable person doesn't revolt. A comfortable person doesn't challenge the rules. A comfortable person doesn't leave. So they wrap you in soft chains. They say, at least you have a job. At least you're not alone. At least it's not worse. And suddenly, not worse becomes your ceiling. You stop chasing better. You stop demanding more. You start shrinking yourself to fit a life that barely fits your soul. Comfort becomes a leash, and you become your own jailer, telling yourself, it's not that bad. I should be grateful. But gratitude is not a reason to stay stuck. Gratitude does not mean you stop evolving. You can be thankful for what you have and still reach for something greater. So ask yourself, are you truly content or just comfortably trapped? Are you at peace or just used to the silence? And if the answer shakes you, good. That means you're waking up. In the next part, we'll uncover how corporations and organizations exploit this exact emotional comfort, pretending to be your family while quietly using your loyalty against you. Because not all manipulation screams. Some of it whispers, we're in this together, right before they let you go. The corporate loyalty lie. We're a family here. You've probably heard those words in a job interview, a company meeting, or an HR training video. It sounds warm, safe, personal, like you're part of something bigger than a paycheck. But here's the hard truth. You're not family. You're an asset. And the moment your loyalty costs more than your productivity, they'll cut you loose without blinking. Welcome to the corporate loyalty lie. It's one of the most widespread and emotionally manipulative tactics in the modern workplace. And it works because it plays on your deepest human needs. The need to belong, the need to matter, the need to feel safe. So they build a culture that feels like love, but functions like a transaction. They give you pizza on Fridays, birthday shout-outs, team bonding events. And you eat it up because you're starving for meaning. But here's what they don't say out loud. That love comes with conditions. That family feeling ends the moment you're no longer profitable. that your loyalty isn't being honored, it's being harvested. You work overtime without extra pay because you care. You cover for others, absorb stress, go the extra mile because you're committed. And what do you get in return? A thank you email, a mug with the company logo, a vague promise of growth opportunities. But when layoffs come, there are no loyalty points, no shields, no second chances, just a cold, templated email that says, "Thank you for your service. We wish you all the best." And suddenly, the family becomes a machine, and you were just a replaceable part. It's not that companies are evil. It's that they're built to optimize for performance, not people. And they will always reward the appearance of loyalty until it no longer serves them. Here's where it gets darker. They train you to take pride in overworking. They frame burnout as dedication. They celebrate your sacrifices while quietly profiting from them. And if you ever question the imbalance, you're labeled ungrateful, not a team player, someone who doesn't fit the culture. Because the culture is designed to keep you obedient, to make loyalty feel moral, so disobedience feels shameful. They want you to fear the unknown more than you fear being used. So they say things like, "Jobs are hard to find. You're lucky to be here. Things are tough everywhere." And you nod, and you stay, and you shrink. But ask yourself, would a real family discard you in an email? Would a real family measure your worth in performance reviews? Would a real family force you to earn your value every single day? Of course not, because a real family loves you unconditionally. A real family holds space for your humanity. A real family doesn't let loyalty become your leash. So why do we keep falling for the corporate myth? Because it feels safer to believe the lie than to face the loneliness of the truth. But you deserve better than free snacks and empty slogans. You deserve to build a life where loyalty goes both ways, where you're not a tool to be used, but a soul to be seen. In the next part, we'll go deeper into the most painful loyalty of all, the kind we give to relationships that break us down, but never let us leave. Because when love becomes a trap, loyalty becomes survival. Toxic loyalty in relationships. Some of the most dangerous loyalty doesn't happen in the workplace. It happens at home, in our relationships, in the places we're supposed to feel safest. And it doesn't begin with control or cruelty or threats. It begins with love, with connection, with promises. But over time, something shifts. You find yourself excusing disrespect because they're going through a lot. You stay silent during arguments because you don't want to make things worse. You stop asking for your needs because at least they haven't left. And you tell yourself, this is what loyalty looks like. This is what commitment means. This is what love requires. But it's not. Because real love doesn't erase you. It doesn't keep score. It doesn't make you small to keep itself big. Toxic loyalty in relationships happens when you give more than you have and receive less than you deserve, but feel too afraid or too guilty to walk away. It's the belief that because you've loved them for so long, you owe them forever, even when forever is breaking you. It's staying because you remember how good it used to be, how they used to make you feel seen, how they used to try. And so you cling to potential, not reality, to memory, not presence. You rewrite the story in your head to make sense of the pain. You say things like, all couples fight. Every relationship has rough patches. They didn't mean it. And deep down you know, you're not being loved. You're being tolerated, manipulated, used. But you can't leave. Because they've made you feel like leaving would be selfish, like it would mean you didn't try hard enough, that you gave up too soon. So you stay, you endure, and you tell yourself it's love. But here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. If your love requires self-abandonment, it's not love. It's fear, it's habit, it's emotional captivity dressed up as devotion. And toxic people know this. They know how to exploit your loyalty. They know how to twist your empathy into chains, how to use your past against your future. They don't need to control you violently. They just need to convince you that leaving would make you the villain. So you internalize the dysfunction. You blame yourself. You shrink. You perform. And you call it love. But loyalty to someone who no longer values your soul is not love. It's quiet self-destruction. And the longer you stay, the harder it becomes to remember what real love looks like. Because toxic loyalty doesn't just affect your relationship, it warps your identity. You start to believe you're difficult, you're too much, you're lucky they're still with you. But you're not difficult, you're not broken, you're not unworthy. You're just stuck in a cycle where your kindness is being used as currency. And here's what you need to know. You're allowed to walk away from people who keep hurting you. You're allowed to choose peace over chaos. You're allowed to say, I loved you, but I love myself now, too. In the next part, we'll explore how this kind of loyalty isn't always chosen. Sometimes it's inherited. Because when culture teaches you that obedience equals goodness, breaking free starts to feel like betrayal. Cultural programming, when loyalty is inherited. Some forms of loyalty don't begin with choice. They begin with birth. Before you can speak, you're told who to obey. Before you can think for yourself, you're told what to believe. Before you can even understand what loyalty means, you're already expected to give it. To your parents, to your community, to your religion, to your country. It's not taught as an option. It's embedded as identity. And so you grow up believing that loyalty equals goodness, that obedience equals love, that questioning equals betrayal. This is cultural programming. It's loyalty passed down like inheritance, not because you chose it, but because that's just how it is. And if you dare to challenge it, you're labeled as selfish, ungrateful, disrespectful, a disappointment. They don't need to control you with force, because they've already trained your guilt to do the job. You were told, family comes first. Never bring shame to the name. Don't question tradition. Respect your elders, no matter what. And so you do. Even when it hurts, even when it breaks you, even when those same elders betray your trust, deny your truth, reject your growth. Because walking away feels like erasing your roots. But here's the question no one ever lets you ask. What if the thing you're being loyal to was never loyal to you? What if the belief system you were raised in never let you feel safe as your full self? What if the culture you inherited silenced your voice, shamed your differences, discouraged your healing? What if your duty to stay silent is what's keeping generations stuck in pain? Toxic loyalty thrives in environments where breaking the pattern is seen as betrayal, not liberation. And that's how it survives. Not through violence, but through expectation. Through phrases like, "This is just how our people are. You'll understand when you're older. You owe everything to your ancestors. Don't air our dirty laundry." It's not loyalty, it's fear, dressed up as tradition. And when you start to awaken, when you begin to question, the shame comes fast. You feel like a traitor, like you're dishonoring those who came before you, like you're abandoning your blood. But let me offer a different truth. You can love your roots without letting them choke your growth. You can honor your lineage without staying trapped in its trauma. You can be grateful for where you came from and still say, "This stops with me." Because true loyalty to your culture isn't about repeating it blindly. It's about healing what it couldn't. It's about evolving the story so the next generation doesn't have to carry the same weight. You were not born to inherit pain. You were born to break cycles. In the next part, we'll explore how this inherited loyalty plays out on a larger scale. How entire societies stay faithful to systems that no longer serve them simply because leaving feels unthinkable. Because when institutions fail the people, but the people keep showing up anyway, you know loyalty has become a cage. Loyalty to broken systems. What happens when an entire population stays loyal to a system that no longer serves them? What happens when people show up every day, not because they believe in the system, but because they've been taught it's the only option? This is loyalty at its most tragic. Not to a person, not to a job, but to a structure, a system that's broken, outdated, and sometimes even harmful. And yet, we stay. We stay in crumbling school systems because it's what we've always known. We follow corrupt institutions because we were told they're sacred. We participate in systems of power that abuse, oppress, and neglect because we've been conditioned to fear what happens without them. This isn't faith. It's not patriotism. It's not pride. It's learned helplessness dressed up as loyalty. Governments that fail to protect, yet demand obedience. Religious institutions that silence dissent, yet preach forgiveness. Healthcare systems that profit off sickness, yet are trusted with our lives. And the worst part? We often blame ourselves when they fail us. We say, "I must not have tried hard enough. Maybe I just slipped through the cracks. This is just how it is." Because acknowledging that the system is broken means facing the terrifying truth that we've spent years loyal to something that never deserved it. But why do we stay? Because systems are smart. They know how to weaponize your fear. They know how to keep you exhausted, overwhelmed, distracted. They offer just enough success stories so you believe the problem is you, not them. If they made it, so can you. You just have to work harder. Don't question the rules, just follow them. And so you play the game. You stay in line. You keep your head down. Not because you believe in it anymore, but because you're scared of what happens if you step out. And that's the trap. You don't need bars to build a prison, just enough fear and just enough hope. Because the illusion of hope is what keeps people loyal to systems that are slowly bleeding them dry. Hope that someday the government will care. Hope that someday the education system will evolve. Hope that justice will be served. Hope that change will come if only we wait long enough. But here's the truth. Hope is not a strategy, and loyalty without boundaries is surrender. If a system cannot be questioned, it cannot be trusted. If a system demands your loyalty but refuses your voice, you are not in a partnership. You are in submission. And your silence is their power. So no, you're not crazy for feeling disillusioned. You're not broken for wanting out. You're not wrong for saying, "I don't believe in this anymore." You are waking up. And waking up is painful, especially when you look around and realize most people are still asleep. But someone has to go first. Someone has to say, "This system doesn't work. I deserve better." We all do. In the next part, we'll uncover exactly how these systems keep you loyal, not through logic, but through emotion. Because when marketing becomes manipulation and slogans replace truth, loyalty stops being earned and starts being engineered. How loyalty is marketed to you. You weren't born loyal. You were taught to be, conditioned, shaped, trained. And the tool they use to do it? Marketing. Loyalty isn't just rewarded in our world, it's sold, wrapped in slogans, packaged in ideals, repeated so often you stop hearing them as persuasion and start accepting them as truth. You see it in workplaces. We're more than a company, we are a family. Loyalty is everything. Together we grow. You see it in countries. Freedom isn't free. Support your nation no matter what. If you don't like it here, leave. You see it in relationships, in communities, in brands. Real love stays. Only the disloyal walk away. Stand by us forever. These aren't just words. They are emotional anchors. Crafted by professionals, designed to bypass logic and go straight to your heart. Because here's what they know. You don't stay loyal to systems because of numbers. You stay because of feelings, because of guilt, gratitude, fear, pride, identity. They attach loyalty to who you believe you are and then dare you to walk away without feeling like a traitor. You're not just quitting your job, you're betraying the team. You're not just questioning your beliefs, you're dishonoring your ancestors. You're not just leaving a relationship, you're proving you're the problem. That's not love, that's branding. Emotional manipulation disguised as moral obligation. And the strategy works because it's subtle. They don't say, "You must stay." They say, "You belong here." They don't say, "You owe us." They say, "You're part of something special." They don't say, "Obey." They say, "Stand with us." And you do. Because it feels good to belong. Because it feels right to be devoted. Because you're told that loyalty makes you strong. But here's the question they never want you to ask. Strong for who? Strong for what? Is your loyalty building a better future? Or is it building a stronger cage? When companies give you anniversary pins instead of promotions, when politicians wave flags while cutting your safety net, when influencers talk about community while selling you lies, that's not loyalty. That's leverage. They're using your values against you, your sense of commitment, your desire to be good, your longing to belong, all turned into tools of control. And they'll keep doing it as long as you keep mistaking their marketing for your morality. So here's your wake-up call. If loyalty has to be sold to you, it probably doesn't deserve you. You don't owe anyone blind allegiance, especially not those who only show up when they need you loyal, but disappear when you need them honest. In the next part, we'll go even deeper into the real cost of this kind of loyalty. Not just the emotional toll, but the time, dreams, peace, and power you've given up in silence. Because loyalty always has a price, and sometimes It's everything. The price of blind loyalty. Loyalty sounds noble. It feels right. It earns applause. But here's what rarely gets talked about. Loyalty has a cost, and when it's blind, the price is brutal. You pay with your time, your energy, your youth, your identity, your freedom. You pay by staying too long in places you've outgrown, by giving chances to people who only take, by waiting for systems to change that were never built to serve you in the first place. And the saddest part, you don't even realize what it's costing you until it's already gone. Years pass, dreams fade, your spark dims. But you tell yourself it was worth it because you were loyal, because you did the right thing, because you stuck it out. But was it worth it? Was being loyal to a dead-end job, a toxic partner, a rigid belief system really worth your silence, your sleep, your sanity? How much have you given in exchange for a pat on the back, a vague promise of someday, or just the comfort of not having to start over? Let's be clear. Loyalty, when given to the wrong things, is not strength. It's slow self-destruction. And the world rewards that destruction. You get praised for being resilient while quietly drowning. You get admired for being dedicated while internally screaming for change. You get called committed, even as your joy, creativity, and self-worth wither away. Blind loyalty is applauded because it's useful to bosses, to institutions, to people who benefit from your compliance. They won't stop you. They'll thank you for making their life easier at the cost of your own. And it's not just the tangible things you lose. It's the invisible ones too. You lose your voice because you're too afraid to speak up. You lose your boundaries because you keep making exceptions. You lose your intuition because you've been trained to override it for the sake of the bigger picture. And most painfully, you lose yourself. You become so wrapped in who you're supposed to be, who you're expected to be, who you promised to be, that you forget who you actually are. That's the real cost. Not just what you've given up, but who you've become in the process. A version of you that plays small, that apologizes for wanting more, that stays quiet just to keep the peace. And you tell yourself, this is maturity, this is sacrifice. But deep down you know, this is loss. And here's what no one says. You're allowed to mourn that loss. You're allowed to grieve the time, love, and loyalty you gave away too easily. You're allowed to be angry about it. But more importantly, you're allowed to stop the bleeding. Because once you see the cost, you get to decide whether it's still worth paying. In the next part, we'll talk about the other side of the coin. The kind of loyalty that's actually healthy, the kind that's powerful, the kind that doesn't demand your silence or self-sacrifice, but amplifies who you truly are. Because not all loyalty is a trap. Some of it is freedom. When loyalty is a strength. Not all loyalty is a trap. Not all devotion is dangerous. Loyalty, when rooted in truth and freedom, can be one of the most powerful forces on earth. But here's the difference. Real loyalty is a choice. Toxic loyalty is a chain. When loyalty is a strength, it doesn't come from fear. It comes from alignment. It's not demanded, it's earned. It's not blind, it's aware. You're not loyal because you're scared to leave. You're loyal because you want to stay. Because what you're loyal to reflects who you are and who you are becoming. It's loyalty with boundaries, loyalty with eyes wide open, loyalty that says, I will walk with you as long as we walk in truth. That kind of loyalty creates beauty. It builds trust. It deepens relationships. It strengthens communities. Because it's not about control, it's about connection. You see this in healthy relationships, where two people grow together, where love isn't conditional, where devotion is mutual, not one-sided sacrifice. You see it in ethical workplaces, where leadership values your humanity, where loyalty is honored with respect, not exploited for gain. You see it in friendships that evolve, where people hold space for your change and never ask you to shrink to keep their comfort intact. And perhaps most importantly, you see it in your relationship with yourself, because self-loyalty is the foundation of all other loyalty. When you are loyal to your values, your truth, your intuition, you stop tolerating what violates them. You don't stay in places that diminish you. You don't entertain people who guilt you into silence. You don't keep promises that require you to betray yourself. And that's where loyalty becomes powerful. It becomes a filter, not a leash. You no longer ask, who deserves my loyalty? You ask, who aligns with the loyalty I've already given myself? That shift changes everything. It allows you to love deeply without losing yourself, to commit fully without becoming blind, to stand firm without becoming stuck. Because true loyalty elevates, it protects, it strengthens. It says, I choose you, but not at the cost of me. That's the kind of loyalty the world needs more of. Not submission disguised as virtue, not silence labeled as commitment, but conscious, courageous, soul-deep loyalty to what is real, what is reciprocal, and what is right. In the next part, we'll explore how to tell the difference between loyalty that empowers you and loyalty that entraps you. Because once you recognize the trap, you begin the process of walking away not with guilt, but with clarity. Breaking free, recognizing the trap. You can't escape a trap you don't know you're in. And that's the first truth you need to face. Not all cages have bars. Some are built with praise, comfort, guilt, and just enough hope to keep you from running. So how do you know if you're caught in the loyalty trap? You start by listening to the voice you've been taught to ignore, your own. Ask yourself, are you staying because you feel safe or because you're afraid to start over? Are you loyal because it brings you peace or because leaving would make you feel like a failure? Do you genuinely believe in what you're committed to, or are you just scared of who you'd be without it? These are not easy questions. They challenge everything you've built your identity around. They shake the stories you've used to justify staying. But they are necessary, because awareness is the first step to freedom. You can't heal what you don't name, and you can't leave what you still romanticize. So here are the signs. If your loyalty feels heavy, if your devotion feels one-sided, if your staying requires you to shrink, silence, or betray yourself, that's not loyalty, that's captivity. And recognizing it doesn't make you weak, it makes you awake. You don't need permission to see clearly. You don't need approval to change your mind. You don't need everyone to understand why you're choosing yourself now. You just need the courage to let go of the version of you that thought staying was the only option. Because here's the truth. You can still honor the past without sacrificing your future. You can thank the job that once helped you grow, the relationship that once held you, the belief system that once gave you comfort, and still walk away when it stops aligning with who you're becoming. Breaking free doesn't always look like rebellion. Sometimes it looks like clarity, like calm, like choosing silence over noise, peace over pride, truth over tradition. But you must be willing to disappoint people who benefit from your loyalty, to finally become someone who is loyal to yourself. So, how do you begin? Start with this. Redefine what loyalty means to you. Not what your family taught you, not what your boss expected, not what your partner guilted you into. What does loyalty look like when it's healthy? What does it sound like when it's mutual? What does it feel like when it's not suffocating you? Write it down. Speak it out loud. Rebuild the definition with your own hands from the truth you now carry. Because once you see the trap, you can't unsee it. And once you name it, you can choose differently. In the next part, we'll walk through that choice, what it means to leave with clarity, not bitterness, to release guilt, to reclaim your freedom without apology. Because walking away isn't betrayal, it's becoming whole again, reclaiming your freedom without guilt. Leaving doesn't make you disloyal, it makes you alive. But here's what keeps most people stuck: guilt. The fear that walking away means you're ungrateful. The fear that choosing yourself means betraying someone else. The fear that freedom is something you have to apologize for. But freedom is not selfish, it's sacred. And recloning it is not rebellion, it's return. A return to your truth, to your boundaries, to yourself. You're allowed to leave jobs that no longer inspire you. You're allowed to step away from relationships that no longer nurture you. You're allowed to outgrow belief systems that once gave you safety, but now keep you small. You don't need a dramatic reason. You don't need a breakdown. You don't need permission. You just need honesty. The moment you admit, "This is no longer right for me," is the moment you begin to reclaim your power. But still, the guilt lingers. You think about the people who helped you along the way, the memories, the sacrifices, the years you gave. And yes, those things matter. You can carry the lessons with you without staying where they happened. You can honor the past without being imprisoned by it. Because staying out of guilt only leads to quiet resentment. You smile, but it's forced. You show up, but you're empty. You give, but you're drained. That's not noble. That's unsustainable. And eventually, that guilt, it becomes grief. Not for what you lost, but for all the versions of yourself you never got to become. So let's rewrite the story. Leaving doesn't mean you didn't care. It means you cared enough to stop betraying yourself. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're wise enough to choose peace. It doesn't mean you gave up. It means you woke up. You are not responsible for managing other people's expectations. You are responsible for honoring your own evolution. And when you do, something beautiful happens. You stop just surviving and start expanding. You breathe differently. You move differently. You speak with clarity instead of compliance. Because for the first time, you're not acting from fear, but from freedom. And freedom doesn't carry guilt. It carries truth. In the final part, we'll bring it all together. We'll expose the last illusion. that loyalty is always good. Because the deeper truth is this: loyalty is only virtuous when it doesn't cost you your voice, your value, or your life. The final realization: loyalty must serve you, not cage you. This is the truth you weren't supposed to see. Loyalty isn't always a virtue. Sometimes it's a cage, built from your own values, polished with guilt and locked with fear. It's not always imposed. Sometimes it's inherited. Sometimes it's learned. And sometimes it's marketed to you as the highest form of character. But now you know better. Loyalty, in its truest form, is not submission. It is strength. It is voluntary. It is earned, not extracted. And it must always have a limit. Because loyalty without limits becomes exploitation. They don't need to chain you if they can just convince you to stay. If they can make you proud of your own self-sacrifice. If they can convince you that endurance equals purpose. If they can keep you almost happy, almost valued, almost free. But almost is not enough. Not for your one life, not for your untapped potential, not for your peace. So what now? You begin again, not bitter, but awake, not jaded, but wiser, not guarded, but discerning. You stop pouring yourself into cups that only drain you. You stop shrinking for systems that never made space for your full self. You stop confusing staying with strength and start measuring loyalty by how well it honors your growth. You learn to ask, does this still align with who I'm becoming? Is this loyalty strengthening me or silencing me? Am I choosing this, or am I just afraid of letting go? These are not betrayals. These are boundaries. Because loyalty is not supposed to make you disappear. It's supposed to make you, more clear, more grounded, more free. And if it doesn't, then it's not loyalty. It's a trap. So let this be your permission slip to walk away from roles that no longer fit, to end commitments that demand your silence, to question the systems that taught you to obey without return. You don't owe your life to anyone who only valued your loyalty but never your liberation. You are not here to be endlessly loyal. You are here to be fully alive. Give your loyalty to truth, to freedom, to relationships that hold you and grow you, to causes that deserve your fire, to a life that reflects your worth. Loyalty is powerful, but only when it serves you, not when it owns you. And the moment you realize that, you stop waiting to be freed and start walking out of the cage with your head high.